Well, hello, my little star children. It's Sahara. I'm going to spend a little time talking about Donald Trump's chart and do it as objectively as possible. And I want to spend most of my time just talking about the very basic aspects so that you can understand the most important things to look at. In astrology, not it is indeed possible to not see the trees for the forest, and you you take in a lot of information, and then when you're done, you go, now what was all that? And it's kind of the way our lives go so quickly. What was all that about? It can be so much. And in Donald's chart, we have some interesting fixed stars that play a big part in his his I guess legacy and ours is kind of star-crossed association of the presidency and his uh, position in the government as it stands. So let's take a look at it. He has foremost his three important indicators are the ascendant. And let's go up here to the sun. I'll move my camera a little bit. Up here to the sun in Gemini, the twins. And down here to his Sagittarius moon. The Sagittarius is my most favorite sign. So with those three things in mind, and not to get confused by all the other things, which of course are important, but if you can't learn the basics, you know, and you can look at these things in your own chart, look at the charts of people you want to know better, spouses, children, parents, and infinitum. Um, he has Leo rising. Now, you can probably recognize these traits without knowing astrology. Leo the lion, and the Leo the lion has a mane of hair. It's their shining glory. Now, we looked earlier at Marilyn Monroe's chart. He has a few things in common with Marilyn Monroe, which is amazing. You don't really think of them in the same part of the galaxy, but they're somehow very connected. Um, we have the Leo the lion. First of all, Leo considers himself the center of the solar system, and that's the way they view life. And you could tell a Leo when they come into a room because they just have presence. Um, Betty Davis had presence. Marilyn Monroe had presence. Um, Elvis Presley had presence. They just walked in. They didn't have to do anything. They had that charisma. And the Leos know already they're the center of the solar system, and they just don't understand it if they're not the center of everything. This is the surprise of surprise. The Leo does turn out in the long run, evolving to one of the most spiritually attuned signs. For instance, Paramahasa Yogananda had Leo rising with his moon in Leo on the ascendant. And he too had um, lots of hair, long hair, but he had presence. And he was, of course, an amazing avatar of our times. And I've noticed that many people, Leos I know, grow into, wait a minute, the way they think is, well, wait a minute, one day they discover they're not God, they're not the center, and they go off looking for God, and usually in a very spiritual way. And when they recognize, because Ra was the sun god, and so all Leos Our, once I discovered that, well, maybe I'm not exactly God, I go off for the most sincere and deep search for deeper meaning. Um, and they turn into great leaders in that area from a sincere point of view. But one of Donald Trump's most talked about outer features, of course, is his hair. It's golden, leonine, and it's kind of, well, a mystery. It has mystery hair, and he's red. If you, if we've kind of gotten used to the red orange face, uh, but come on, it's the sun. He looks like the sun. He looks red and orange. Now, one of the things that brings this about, you might remember Monroe had her shining glory was her beautiful hair. He has Mars, the red planet and planet of war, the great war god, is right on his ascendant. The ascendant is that's the first house, and that's your rising sign. It shows a lot about your appearance before the world. It is your book cover. It's what you show and what's most obvious about you and your personality. And some astrologers think the ascendant is more important than the sun or moon. But he really emphasizes Mars, the red planet, and you look at him, red face, red hair, and if he's unhappy about something, you get the roaring leonine personality, and he's on a gold throne, literally. In his bathroom, he has uh, golden toilets, real gold. It's my understanding, which is amazing. And he sits in gold chairs, and really there have been rulers in the past, and they would get rid of ordinary chairs and immediately get gold, and they're really symbolic of little thrones. And maybe the Donald thinks of his um, golden toilet as a golden throne. So maybe that's where he comes up with his great ideas. Who knows? Um, it's like our friend Elvis Presley died on the throne. The king died on the throne, literally. So it is. We're going to have. It's going to be um, a learning experience to see how Trump bears the choppy waters of the presidency. So we're taking a look at the rising sign. One of the things that made astrologers pretty sure he was going to win the presidency was that he has the fixed star Regulus on his ascendant. When you go looking at your personal chart, look at your ascendant. That's what you look like. It shows a lot about your early childhood. And his parents were kind of martial and authoritarian. And sadly, one thing he is embarrassed about is they were active KKK members. His father even went to jail or was arrested for protests being a part of the KKK in New York. He was kind of, well, I hate to say it, but his parents are kind of Aryan Nazis, really. And Donald Trump is not, he often says he's not proud of that. So you have to take him at his word. And I mean, that can happen to anybody. You can have bad parents and bad relatives. So that's his early beginnings, and the first house shows your early beginnings. I can imagine Daddy and Mommy were a little on the violent side. And I don't know much about his parents, but I find it so hard to believe that they even stayed married, because this chart shows this divorced parents, unless the two parents got had already been through a few relationships, because this is not smooth waters, and that's the way it's been for Donald Trump. His marriages have not been smooth waters, and he doesn't have. He's not. he's not exactly cruising along on calm waters. So let's go and look at the main points. The sun in Gemini, the moon in Sagittarius, and Leo rising. And by the way, I love um, Sagittarius. So here are the 3 points we're going to look at. We have the Gemini sun at 22 degrees and the Mars on the ascendant rising, and that's the Regulus star, fixed star. We're going to talk about that. That makes you destined to be a ruler. And then we have in direct opposition, he's a full moon baby, because the moon was at 21 degrees of Sagittarius. And when you have the sun and moon in opposition, things that were not calm with the parents or in your own personal life. Here is a few thoughts on Mars conjunct Regulus, the very, very powerful star in the heavens. Um, Honor, fame, strong characteristics, public prominence, high military command. Regulus comes from the word regal, gut king. So, that was becoming easy for astrologers to predict Donald Trump's presidency. Will it be smooth? That is something that a lot of people wonder about. Um, Anybody with Regulus prominent in their charts, they're a person that likes to give orders. They bark. I guess they're barkers, and they like goals, honors. They like to be noticed, and already he is Leo. He has a commanding personality, and it extends even to his love life, since everyone in the Regulus personality is merely a stepping stone for their pleasure and ego. And those are not my words. That is the definition of Regulus conjunct Mars on the ascendant. Another fixed star. There's a bunch of them in these fixed signs. The Taurus. Well, let's look quickly at his midheaven. You see here we have the midheaven. We're going to be looking a little at midheaven, ascendant, moon, and sun. The midheaven is where you're going in life. I believe that the sun really influences our path in life, but also the midheaven is where it points to your fate or destiny in the world. And I have always watched, ever since I learned astrology, I've been aware of these stars, and they do come true. And we're going to look at Algol, the fixed star. The Algol comes from an Aramaic word meaning alcohol, and they named it after that star. It is someone drunk with power that ultimately is doomed to defeat. Now, these are really heavy terms. This is far from simple like horoscope type things, but these are the beliefs of the ancients and many and mythology, and they are based on real facts. In Greek mythology, Medusa is represented by the Algol fixed star at 26 degrees of Taurus, and that's his midheaven. And this is wonderful reading, especially if you are attracted to ancient and Greek mythology. Algol was regarded by the ancients as the most evil star in the heavens. Believe me, I had a brother-in-law who had his a lot of things at this point, he did cause his own misery and downfall and ruination of his whole life by trying to be powerful, and it was kind of sad. And I always knew it, that I couldn't tell him much about astrology because he felt that it was, um, what did he say? Astrology was the work of the devil and not Christian. But he went about doing just god awful things to people, and it resulted in his downfall, misery, and pain. It was all unnecessary. But I guess he came in to do these things, and so I would watch quietly on the side. Um, you can't listen. Look at these words. You cannot ignore the suffering and the horror and brush this aside. Algal placement on the chart um, insists upon confrontation and assimilation of these harsh aspects of the human experience in this lifetime. And this was true of people I've known with things. And if you adopt, you can do it. Knowledge is a responsibility. If you adapt a temperament of kindness, gentility, respect for life, and not be a bully and want to have your way and appease your ego, uh, you can have a beautiful, peaceful life and use that power for good. And I've seen it work both ways if you have a spiritual clue. So uh, if you use this knowledge in a level-headed manner, with respect and power, you'll you can use it positively instead of the death and destruction of algo. So now that's not very cheery, and indeed these things do pop up in your charts and the charts of people that you love. They just need to be kind, do charitable works, and not be egotistical, wanting to have their way in cruelness, and because it comes back to you. So here we have two magnanimous, powerful stars right on the ascendant, um, Regulus and Algol up on 26 degrees of um, Taurus. And I've heard, ever since I studied astrology, I've heard of these stars, and they're to be paid attention to. You might remember Marilyn Monroe had an unfortunate degree of her ascendant, and if she had just kind of chilled out and not been so, I guess if you stand up half naked in front of the country and sing happy birthday to the president, and the thing she did became outrageous, and she wasn't paying attention, and I do believe that she was killed. I'm positive. So behave yourself when you have these things. Have humility. Go work for the SPCA and saving little animals. Don't try to grab power, because it gets to you do that in an ego, it will bite you back. Now, Geminis. Everybody loves Geminis and Sagittarius Sun because they are delightful. You know, we don't want to get too heavy here. It's just that these ancient stars, well, they're stars up in the sky right now. You want to pay attention to those. Geminis, on the light side, um, curious, they're the most interesting people to talk to if they don't talk your head off. Um, they're curious, adaptable. They love to learn new things. They love to disseminate ideas. So I hate to say it, but the chatterboxes, but sometimes what they're an air sign. So what they're talking about can be immensely interesting. They're walking encyclopedias. If they don't get too trivial. Um, their whole thing in life is to communicate and rapid transportation. You think of Mercury, the god of messages, the messenger god, and he was back and forth constantly with information and communications. He's a winged runner. Now, on the negative side, the Gemini can be nervous, deal with untruths and lies because they're dual. And say one thing and do another all within the same breath or the next day. Um, the Geminis are famous for going out to the store to get a loaf of bread and not coming back for a year because they got sidetracked. They're represented as a joker or great trickster and juggler of facts. So they're inconsistent and indecisive. And but you always want to have a Gemini in your party. It's going to be a lot more lively. I guess they're the ones that put the lampshade on their head and walk across the room and say, I'm lit up with a Leo rising, let me tell you. But we have the Sagittarius moon, my favorite. Sagittarius is a great wanderer of the world and the universe. They want to know everything. They're curious, adventuresome, and interesting. They just don't fence them in. And I'm going to come back to some traits of a Sagittarius in a minute because by the time I finish explaining this, my film will have run out. But the Sagittarius moon knows no limits. The sky is their not even a limit for them. They want to do everything, learn everything, be everywhere, and they're always off on an adventure. And they're always interesting. So we have a magnanimous, interesting person in Donald Trump. If he can just have some humility and down-to-earthness, he's not going to get trapped in the cycle of these fixed stars, which are very, very faded indeed. So let's take a look at his more expanded chart with the sun, the moon, the ascendant, and the Mars conjunct the ascendant, which already, if you know those things about your chart, you can get started by reading the traits of that sun sign and what the different houses mean. For instance, his sun is in the 10th house. The 10th house is the Capricorn house, and it is the house of career. Where you're going, it becomes your most important focus. And so when you have any sign, whether it's Virgo or Libra or anything, and you find placements in the 10th house already, you know where they're going. You know that's the most important thing to them. And if somebody has an important house placement like the sun and they're not acting out that particular trait, then they're quite frankly in the wrong area of life. There are, say, Aries has to be in control and out front. They need to be out front of people and leading the charge of life. So if you give a reading to a little quiet librarian or accountant that sits in ivory stack book towers, they're wrong. They're in the wrong place. They're going to be unhappy. You want to guide them up into a more outward active, most certainly active. And that's how the 10th house is. You want to be out front in your career. It's the most important thing to you, more important than anything. And of course, he has fed his ego by the acquisition of money. And he wants to make his appearance big, if not bigger. That is the Leo rising, especially with Regulus. I am number one. He really means it. But his sun is in direct opposition to the moon That's mommy and daddy. The moon is what you need emotionally. The sun is how you're going to express it and what you're going to do to get what you need emotionally. But you have them in complete opposites. If you think about two opponents, they're going to face each other. That's not good. That's not even holding hands. You're not even close. You're on the far reaches of the universe for each individual. So that his parents remained married is a miracle. And but we don't know um, their history. And but you can look at Donald Trump's history. He has the same thing. Um, he has this moon, what you need, your house. This is your domestic life, what I need emotionally, and your domestic life. Down here in the fourth house, that is the Cancer house. That's a home and hearth. So this is where my emotions are, and this is what I need. Now here we have a guy out conquering the world, and let's hope that Algo doesn't have its head cut off for that, because this is a jeopardy of great losses. And often it's a sign of losing your head, literally. You have great here, Regulus, and you have disaster here, and they're powerful. They put you up in the head of the whole world, but they're in your life. You're two people. We have dual. Sagittarius is dual, and Gemini is of two natures, and they're in opposition. These need to make you not even the same person every day, and things change on you making a sacrifice for the home. I've seen people that have these aspects a little lighter, and there's always the problem with home and work. Many people have that, but it might not be to this exaggerated degree. Some people have the moon and sun in, um, well, let's say, adversarial relationship, and they can't bring home and work and things in the outer world to merge with things in the inner world. I always suggest that they work at home, but not Donald Trump. Well, his home was Trump Towers, I suppose. That's his business world built around his home. And my tape is going to run out. Looking at some more placements here, I want to point out Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, and confusion, square to Mercury. Mercury's how you communicate. It's also the ruler of Gemini, so it's important here. It is square, an intense aspect to Neptune. I'm sorry, but Neptune in intense aspect is illusions and lies. And when you have Mercury, here's Mercury, the guide of communications, it's a ruler of the second house, how you make money. And it is square Neptune, the great illusions. We have untruths on finances. So I'm not seeing, aside from the powerful stars, I'm not seeing the great magnanimous leader here. I feel, but I want to look at this as objectively as possible. Now, you can have aspects to Neptune that would indicate perhaps untruths in many areas of life, so you can't just go by that. But Mercury is how you speak and think. It's square Neptune, the planet of illusion, confusion, and delusion, and Mercury rules the second house of money. So perhaps he's not always told the truth when it comes to money. Let's be kind here. And that can happen. But I've also seen that non-truth telling to be true in Alzheimer's patients. Ronald Reagan had an aspect like this, not quite as strong, and towards the end of his presidency, he got Alzheimer's, and he literally couldn't tell the truth on the stand of investigations uh, with Iran-Contra because he didn't remember, and he really didn't. He'd forgotten. So the truth got hidden in a terrible affliction. So was Ronald Reagan a liar? Not really. No, of course not. He was afflicted, and that he was a great president like he was with an affliction. You have to appreciate it. So none of us are angels yet. We'll be angels soon, one day, and our stars will shine for us too. I bid you adieu, and we're going to talk about Mr. Trump some more. Your opinions would be appreciated and observations. And good night, my little star children.